Glad to have you here for our December 1st Tuesday gathering. Rotary's vision statement, of course, is together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe in our communities and in ourselves. Kim Laing, we're just very happy to have you here today to share some information on this report flowing forward. And just appreciate your time and appreciate the connection that Todd has to you and allowed for you to make the time and be here. So with that, I'm going to stop my share and allow you to share your screen.
Great. All right. Hopefully you can all see my screen now. Although, yep,
Can everybody
hopefully I
see
can
your
make
presentation?
that thing go away. Anybody know how to make that go away?
What are you seeing?
Well, oh, there we go. It's good. Good enough. This little box. So, yep, there it goes. We're good. All right. So, yeah, we missed Todd at work. Also excited for his retirement, as well. So yeah, I am Kim Laing. I'm the surface water monitoring manager. And you're like, what is a surface water monitoring manager? Uh, and I work for the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. And we are a group that monitors the lakes, the streams, the rivers to find out if they meet the Clean Water Act requirements. And so that's what we're going to talk about today is kind of what the trends are in Minnesota's lakes and rivers. Uh, and I want to start off by saying this is funded by the Clean Water Fund. This work ensures that Minnesotans have clean water for drinking, fishing, swimming, and recreation. This was voted on in 2008. The Clean Water Fund dollars come from the Clean Water Land and Legacy Amendment that Minnesotans approved. And this allocates a portion of our sales tax and puts it into the natural resources, arts, cultural heritage, and the water fund. So it's a wonderful opportunity. We are able to do so much because of these funds, and we're grateful. It matches knowing that Minnesotans value the state's water, and this fund matches that. So what do we do? We have a lot of water here in Minnesota, right? And that's a big task to ask. And it did take the Clean Water Fund to enable us to do the actual monitoring throughout the state. Before that, we were chasing problems. And now we're able to systematically go around the state. So what you're looking at is a map of the state and the 80 watersheds across the state. And we monitor 6 to 8 of those watersheds per year. Um, there, we did have a little gap because of the pandemic, but we picked back up. So we are partway through this. You can kind of find some 2025. We were down here in the lower Minnesota River, the Des Moines River, Wild Rice Marsh, Clearwater Red, and the Rainy Headwaters. So that's this last summer we were out there monitoring and also finishing up in our 2024 watershed. So we're working through the state systematically, moving through so that people know. And with that, so that monitoring helps us understand, is there a problem? Like, are we doing good? Are we not doing good? Like, same of, how's it going? And are we meeting those water quality standards? When they don't meet that standard, we call them impaired, kind of like they're not healthy. Um, we also want to make sure that those waters that are exceptional, that we're keeping them exceptional too. So we call them just that, exceptional. So with that information, we can develop a watershed restoration and protection strategy. And that enables us and partners, many people, groups, probably such as yourselves, to get funds, make rain gardens, protect lands, change a riparian area, all sorts of things. And so these are planning tools. These go into community engagement activities that all lead to improved water quality. So that's what we do. So now why flowing waters? Well, about a year ago, somebody asked us some questions. Well, what are you doing with the clean water funds? And are we showing any progress? And I was like, yeah, we're seeing progress, but we needed to show it. And so our flowing forward is just that. It's a report showing how are we doing? What's changing? And what does that mean for Minnesota? And where is it changing? So some highlights, which I think were included in the invite. Our monitoring is showing changes. Our fish and the bugs that live in, like I was talking about, the bugs that you can find just hanging onto the rocks, um, and that our trout eat, and our dragonflies and damselflies that we like seeing in the summer. Those are all showing improvements in most of our regions and of the watersheds that we've monitored thus far. That's a great sign. Great to see this measurement of how our aquatic life is doing directly. They're there all the time. It's really important for us versus like a grab sample of one time. That's how that water is doing. They're there for their whole lifetime. So that's great. Our phosphorus levels in major rivers are stabilizing or are decreasing. Some of this directly tied to the Clean Water Fund. And again, this Clean Water Fund has a big impact in the work that we're doing. And the nitrate increases are slowing compared to the past. Water clarity in many of our lakes and streams is also improving. And we're going to get into this a lot more because we have like 50 plus years of data, which is awesome by our volunteers. And so we're seeing improvements there. Again, decades of volunteer data supplemented with partners, local partners, and others also doing that monitoring. At the same time, we do have challenges. So we do need to be realistic about those challenges. We have climate impacts. We have land use changes. We have pollutants like PFAS that are requiring ongoing vigilance. Let's talk a little bit about what the bugs. So basic, maybe the question is that somebody posed to us, are the fish and bugs, are the invertebrate communities doing any better? And I said, we look at those communities, and how do we look at those communities? We go out and we sample them, a reach of a stream, and we are able to identify the fish and the bugs and come up with a score. And that score is called an IBI, an Index of Biotic Integrity. And that score is from 0 to 100, and it tells us you're doing good or you're not doing so good. And what we know is across the state where we've monitored so far, we have a statistically significant improvement in both fish and macroinvertebrates. So fish might have only increased a little bit, but they're a 1.5 increase. We'll take the increase, slow and steady. And our bug population, I'm going to use those interchangeably. Bugs, invertebrate, aquatic insects. You're going to hear me say those. I'm talking about the same things. I'll try to be consistent. Those actually increased by 6.3 points. So that we've definitely seen, and I'm going to show a statewide map later on. So another thing, why are we looking at these? are bugs. Like I said earlier, they are the ones who are in the water. They're there, they're experiencing their environment, whatever is coming down the stream or river. And some of those fish and bugs are very sensitive to pollution. So if they are thriving in a stream, then that indicates that there's good water quality and a high amount of fish and diversity of the fish and bugs um, may also indicate good diversity. But if you have, or good health, if you have, for an example, a bunch of leeches, that might indicate more pollution or turbid conditions. So this is a lot. There's two maps on here that are showing those changes. So there is a map on the left that is showing those invertebrates or bug or aquatic insect changes. So we were able to go to these watersheds one time and we returned to them so we can say whether or not they changed. And if they are in that greenish color, um, they improved. If they are in a gray color, there's no change. We didn't detect a change. At least statistically, we didn't have a change. If there's a white, we haven't gotten there yet. We're working on it. Like I said, we're moving through our watershed. Um, and then unfortunately, the Missouri River Basin, we do have a decline of our fish community on the right side. I saw a hand up, Terry. Oh, you're on mute, Terry. Still on mute.
Sorry. If it shows improved, it could still be impaired. Is that
Correct.
right?
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Okay.
And this is funneled up to a watershed scale.
Yeah.
So at this scale, we're, yes, but it shows improvement.
And
So, um, for myself, like say if you're, if a person's unhealthy and they start exercising and they're gotten their blood pressure down, a little bit, then they've improved. They might not be where they want to be,
right.
but they've made an improvement. And I'd say the same thing here. If improvement, we also know that it takes a long time both to get impaired, and it's going to take a long time for things to come off an impaired waters
Yeah.
list. And so, in fact, we know that some of the lakes in the metro area took 20 plus years to get off the list with a lot of effort. And so, this is a really good sign for us to say, yeah, it's going to take all of us to do a lot of it, a lot of work to show changes. And look at this. We're starting to get there. Slow and steady, we will get there. So
And are you going to show us a map of what is impaired now?
I'm not, but we
Because we'd be
certainly
depressed?
can.
Would we be
Um,
depressed or what?
there is an impaired waters viewer, and you can go look at the information. We do show in the report, which I linked, um, some percentages by watershed of what's impaired. And that gives you kind of some high level takeaways of where there's areas that have more impairments than others.
Is there a general figure that you use for like what percentage of our waters are impaired? Like of these zones or whatever, like 50%, 80%, anything like that?
There was a number at one time. I would have to go back and
I see.
double check that number.
Okay.
I'm afraid that it could be out of date. One of the things is that we are starting to see waters come off the impaired waters list. So, and this backs that up is that we've went and monitored the entire state, and now we're on our second round. So, um, we're how many years in, 15, 16, 17 years into this fund, and we're starting to see those changes, and we're starting to see, we'll also remember some of these watersheds, the ones that are still in white, we haven't gotten that second time yet. They were also at the end of that cycle last time. So they haven't had that. That's a 10-year gap. That's not a 20-year gap. That's a 10-year gap from monitoring the first time to monitoring the second time. So in the scheme of when we think of how long it takes things to recover and how much change needs to happen, that's a pretty short period of time.
Thanks.
Yeah, good question. I appreciate the question, Terry, too. Another question. Have the nutrient and sediments decreased? So I mentioned this earlier too. Our phosphorus, and I'm going to show more information. So this brings up a whole bunch of questions. So phosphorus, it's in our leaves. We need it. Think of it as it's a nutrient. We need nutrients, but too much is a bad thing, right? Just like taking vitamins. Too much is a bad thing. Right amount, good thing. Phosphorus concentrations in Minnesota, major rivers are stable or declining. Our total suspended solids show mostly no significant trend, with a slightly more showing decreases than increases. But most, and I'll show you the information, show no trend. That does exactly mean, though, those that are not doing well are staying, some are staying not doing well too. So, and then our nitrate trends have been rising, but now we're seeing fewer of those rising trends. So cautious on that one. Let's go look at the data a little bit more. So these are the sites that are reporting thus far. So currently we have 199 sites that are our pollutant load monitoring sites. They're dispersed across the state. And you might be like, well, 199, Kim, those numbers of sites don't add up to 199. It's because we need at least 10 years of data to show a trend. And we are just starting to get some of our smaller sites that information. So these are the sites where we have 10 years of data. Very shortly, we're going to have a whole bunch more because of the Clean Water Fund. So we're headed in the right direction. So like I said, phosphorus, we have 19 sites with an improving trend. That's great. That's really good news. We have 3 sites with they're degrading. Unfortunately, they're getting maybe a little bit worse. But just on the flip side of Terry talking about those sites actually could be good and be increasing in phosphorus and not a concern yet either. So you have to add a little more context to understand whether or not that's a concern or not. I know for sure off the top of my head, one of those sites, it has low phosphorus. The fact that it's increasing, we should keep an eye on, but it's not a concern. But what you're going to notice too is many of these sites do not have any significant trend. These are in our major rivers and basins, so our bigger main stem sites. They take a lot longer to show change. So than some of our smaller streams. A small stream might change a lot more in a quicker, shorter period of time. Our larger rivers take a lot longer. And this shows that. So when we get those smaller sites in here, it might be a different story. But so far, we are seeing some nutrient, particularly phosphorus, and sediment decreases. So water clarity. I'm just going to talk just a smidgen about water clarity. We have in lakes, that is caused by algae growth due to excess nutrients, so phosphorus in particular in Minnesota. That is phosphorus, which is really elevates and just like a garden, right? If you got the right ingredients in your garden, then you got the nutrients in your soil, you got water, and you got the good sunlight, then you can have a good garden. Well, the same is true in a lake. So you can have really good algae growth if you have good nutrients, you got the water, and you got good sunlight. And in some places, sediment. And you're like, sediment. Well, think about carp or a churning over, turning up lake. That can also cause a low water clarity, meaning you can't see through that water as much. In streams, it's often due to sediment from runoff or stream banks eroding in under high flows. It also can come from an upstream lake with those algae problems too. So we see that sometimes. Most of the time, it has to do with sediment. Um, our volunteers, like I mentioned, we have terrific volunteers. We have over 50 years of a volunteer water monitoring. This is something that everyone can do. And I know there's some volunteer water monitors in this group and much appreciated. So everyone can do this. So happy to have it. We have had 4,582 lakes have been monitored by volunteers. 2,571 stream sites have been monitored by volunteers, and nearly 10,000 people have participated in the program overall. So who can monitor? Anyone? Anyone who lives near a stream or visits a stream or a lake, families, retirees, schools, groups, whatever. We are happy to help anyone become a volunteer. Uh, so what can volunteer water monitoring tell us about streams? When you have, uh, so we use a Secchi tube, which is the diagram of the tube looking thing to measure clarity in streams. And a clear water means it gets lots of light. We have many plants. We can have a clean and rocky bottom. Whereas if you have a Secchi tube where you can only see a little bit, it's probably murky, little light, has lots of sediment, and very few plants can actually thrive in there.
Kim, this is Tim Dietz. Just a quick question. Yeah, is there a official definition of what is a stream and
Ooh.
what is a lake in Minnesota?
There is an official definition. That is a great question. It would be in statute of the waters of the state. I don't actually know it off the top of my
That's
head.
okay.
You'd
But
have
something
to look it up.
I can look it up in
Um,
the statutes. Okay.
hmm
Okay.
Yep, but it is there.
Well,
So,
I was just
um,
thinking about we live near Rice Lake in Maple Grove, and I
mhm,
was thinking about some of the waters that flow into that lake,
mhm.
and I'll have to look and see if they're actually streams or not. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
my
That's
my guess is they are.
okay.
So, great question. So same, we're going to just talk a little bit about lakes quick too. So we talked about algae. Um, it can estimate algae levels. So we use a Secchi disk in lakes, um, which you can see it's when you can see the disk or not see the disk. It can respond to seasonal changes in temperature. So when the lake's turning over and the cold water and warm water flip-flop, and that can respond to land use changes. We see responses to severe weather, sometimes construction or development. So we can see those things in the different lake data that we get from volunteers utilizing Secchi discs. This is a really useful tool for us. And it, like I said, it can estimate a lot of information. It gives us, if you're thinking about it again in terms of health, it gives us some of that like initial information to say, hey, something might be off here, or oh, this lake clarity is really good. This is great. We can trust that it's probably in good condition. So looking at some of our data that looks at lakes. Um, so this is a these show the numbers, although one of my numbers disappeared, it looks like, of lakes that show that we have improving trends in that greenish color. 540 lakes show improving trends. That's terrific. 152 show degrading trends. Um, 261 show no change. That means there was enough to say it was statistically flat. There was nothing changing within it. And then the other blue one shows that there's, or dark one, shows that there's no trend, and that could mean it's going up and down, and there's nothing, we can't get a which way it's headed. So that's the difference between that no trend, which could be all over the place, and no change, which is that we can say for sure there's nothing that's been changing about that lake. And again, this is really good information. And I will add a piece of information that these are not all due to zebra mussels. That's one of the questions I frequently get, is that many of these do not have zebra mussels. There is only of the 540 lakes, 175. So there is still quite a few who have zebra mussels, but it's 36% of that 540 lakes. So zebra mussels are not the only reason that we're seeing that improvement in our lakes. And then and zebra mussels, we also still see lakes degrading even with the presence of zebra mussels. So we do have lakes that have zebra mussels and that are still having a degrading. They're getting worse in their clarity. Streams and rivers is kind of a similar story, except for we added another category. This is the category we added is it's too clear for us to run a test. That's a cool category. That's a pretty neat thing. So between our improving waters and our too clear to run a test, we are showing some really good information here. So of the 2,571 stream sites that have been monitored by volunteers, and that have enough data. We have 330 with improving clarity. And this data is, I should add, is collected between April and September. It does have to have a minimum of 50 data points across 8 years for us to see a change. So we do need still quite a bit of data, but it's manageable. And that is helpful for us to detect these changes. And again, we use this information to help us understand whether or not a stream is doing well. And we'll bring this into information to help support our decisions on impaired waters as well. A little bit. I'll just do a quick how to become a volunteer water monitoring. You can visit our webpage at www.pca.state.mn.us and search PCA volunteer water, and it'll come up. And there's two great coordinators who can help you get going. And we're happy to help out. Also, really cool experience if you know anyone or go yourself up to the Boundary Waters, you can check out a kit and take that kit into the Boundary Waters and take some remote lake monitoring as well. Did that myself. You put in some neat rocks to get it to sync for you, and it's a really neat experience too. So, and we're partnering with some um, outfitters as well to help get those out into the Boundary Waters as well. So are our actions leading to improved water quality? That's what many people want to know. And we know that uh, restoring water quality takes time and effort, and the Clean Water Fund has helped improve it. The screen that I'm showing is looking at the MPCA's Healthier Watersheds webpage. And that is where people can go to find out what is being done in Minnesota's watersheds to protect and improve water quality. MPCA updates the information every July based on the data from the previous years. And these show what's being done on the landscape to reduce different actions, such as contaminated runoff from rural or agricultural lands, um, planting cover crops, improving septic systems, stabilizing stream banks, and much more. So you can see all of that information. You can change your years around. You can do all kinds of things. There's so much information in that that you can play around with. It's very fascinating for someone who really wants to dig into it. But if on a larger scale, you just want to see the volume of work that's been done, it also will show you that as well. Mentioned this a little bit earlier. We are making progress delisting our impaired waters. It's going to take time. There is a number of growing success stories showing real improvements in water quality. It takes sustained effort, but the Clean Water Fund has led to measurable improvements in water quality. To date, the MPCA has removed 95 lakes and river segments from the impaired waters list because they are now meeting water quality standards due to restoration activities. And I said earlier as well that there was a review that looked at 20 years of lake nutrient impairment delistings in Minnesota and found that those came not from things like quick fixes, but from long-term sustained work. And again, going back to the previous page, you can look at the Watersheds webpage to learn a lot more about actions that are being done. So 95 water bodies are now meeting. We're showing progress. I anticipate that this will continue to change, and hopefully we continue to see waters come off the impaired waters list. And I know that the 2024 impaired waters list had the least go on it as well. So we're seeing the number of impairments that are being added to the list go down, as well as we're starting to see impairments be removed because of restoration activities. Mentioned challenges. We do have challenges. We still have things like PFAS, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, and sulfate. And these continue to affect Minnesota's waters, and these are going to continue. They also emphasize the reason that we need to continue to do this work, and make sure that we're monitoring so we understand what's in our water and where we need to work to improve and protect. Yeah, Terry.
Just one thing. I imagine Minnesota egg producers do not like that picture.
Oh, you know what? I will let our communications folks
Yes, I don't
know
think they'll
that.
be
Thank
very
you
happy
very
about that.
much.
I'm saying that
Yes.
as a vegan even.
Well, I appreciate hearing that.
Yeah.
I think it is mo not about the egg. It is
I
about
don't think it is
the
either, but there's
PFAS. But yes,
clearly an association that maybe eggs have PFAS.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay. Um, so what can we all do? Right? What can regular people do to improve water quality? So if there are, again, opportunities, volunteer water monitoring is one of those opportunities. Also, homeowners play a really important role in improving water quality, whether you're planting rain gardens or ensuring your lawn clippings and litter don't go into storm drains or don't like pile up around the storm drains. Rain barrels, preventing any way from excess nutrients from getting into those lakes and streams. That's what we really want to do. We want to prevent those nutrients, those sediments from even making it to our water. So the more we can slow that water down, the better. Again, cover crops are really important for our agricultural lands. Also for homeowners, I'm a gardener. I like to be able to make sure that the soil that I have in my garden stays in my garden. So making sure that we have cover crops, and that will help reduce that runoff and also improve soil health. You can also go to our website and learn a lot more. I put the report for flowing forward um, in the chat. And you can find it also under our water quality trends and data page on our website. Uh, and there's a lot more information. So I wanted to make sure to point out that we put a spot for additional resources. So you're curious about something, there's a lot more information that is being done. This is a very high level both report and information. And if there's more wanted or about a specific area, probably have it or can get it. So, and we really appreciate the questions because that's where this originated from, was the questions that somebody asked and got us to make sure that we were getting the message out. So with that, I'll say thank you. Um, and if anybody has any questions, Terry.
Yeah.
Maybe Mike can go. I've got many.
Oh,
Yeah, I have a couple too, but first of all, I just wanted to mention in the Minneapolis Star Tribune today, there was a surface water person uh, out on the water in
Taft Lake.
a lake in
Richfield.
Richfield, Taft Lake, and saw a fresh water jellyfish. I didn't know there was such a thing.
yeah, yeah,
Me
very
neither.
cool.
Terry, go ahead, and if there's time, I'll have another.
All right. Well, do we have time?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Great. Well, first, just thank you, Kim. That was great presentation, and thank you for all the great work you've been doing all these years. Really appreciate it. I had the privilege of serving on the state's groundwater advisory task force that came up with our landmark legislation on groundwater. So we thought a lot about you and what you were doing a long time ago.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Um, so, just a few related questions. What will you say about how bad the Mississippi is? And then how bad is what we are giving from Minnesota to the dead zone now in the Gulf of, I think it's called still Mexico, but maybe not.
Um, I'm gonna answer these to the best of my ability. The Mississippi, we currently just finished up a study in 2025 um, of the monitoring data of the Mississippi River. And so that was looking at all from the headwaters all the way to Iowa. Now, here's the bummer news. I don't have the data synthesized and
That's okay.
analyzed to tell you right now.
No, that's okay.
We do have on our website a look at the upper Mississippi River portion of Minnesota from the headwaters down to St. Anthony Falls. And the
Yeah.
last time we found it was actually in pretty good condition. Um, so, but that there's a high level report on our webpage that would go into more detail than I can provide at this moment.
But the problem
Um,
isn't the problem when the Minnesota River comes in?
Sure, that is one is Minnesota provides a great deal of sediment and nutrients to the
Yeah.
Mississippi. Yes. Um, yes, so that is. And then the dead zone or the Gulf hypoxia certainly is an issue. And that is one of the reasons that Minnesota is paying attention to what's going on in our waters and what we're exporting to to those elsewhere, whether it's down the Mississippi or up through the Red or the Rainy. So we are a headwaters state, which is exciting, and it's also a responsibility, right? Because that water goes elsewhere and is used for a whole bunch of other things downstream of us. Um, and so we are seeing that there are changes. The nutrient reduction strategy came out, and that addresses some of the nutrients that Minnesota is exporting out of and headed to others, and comes up with strategies on how to deal with that. So both what the situation is and the strategies in which to deal with that. And I don't know if they recorded that webinar. There was a recent webinar on that, and there's a 200-page report that goes into quite a depth on that. I know that some of the work that we see out of Red Wing on the Mississippi River is showing that like our phosphorus levels are decreasing. Um, so there are some really good news. I think we're going to be able to share more information about the Mississippi River in particular in about a year or two when we get through the analyzing that data set that we have.
Great. That's very helpful. Well, the other question regarding this, and I'm glad you brought up the PFAS issue. We're working with Clean Water Action, after Amara's law that we got passed. We're working and we're looking at actually taking on the whole Mississippi River watershed, particularly the river area, focusing on PFAS. Obviously, there's much more than PFAS there, pesticides, but we want to start with a focus on PFAS. And in 2 years, what we're thinking about doing is doing a riverboat down the Mississippi with arts and culture, but also with water monitoring and
Yeah.
blood testing of people for PFAS along the river, doing all kinds of education about PFAS. And where are we right now, as far as you're concerned, being able to monitor PFAS?
Yeah. So in there has been monitoring that has gone on for special studies, special areas. My group's area is ambient. So what's going on around us? We don't necessarily we help support other areas, but we don't necessarily go dig into those specific areas.
I see.
But I'll add one of the pieces of information that we collected when we did the Mississippi River, both in 2024 and 2025, was longitudinal PFAS monitoring in the entirety of the Mississippi River.
Wow, there is that.
There will be, yes,
Oh, there
because
will be.
I mean, the data's not
Yeah, but I
ready,
mean,
but
you've got the
yes,
data. You just have to crunch it.
correct.
That's
Yes.
great. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Mike. I've got more, but
Well, no, first of all, anybody else have a question
I do.
before I jump in? Okay. Kathy.
I'm going to just say that I'm curious about how you deal with PFAS in water systems. I mean, can they be cleaned out? And NPR had a really interesting report last week on analyzing PFAS on conifer needles. Your photograph here got
Yeah,
me thinking about that.
that's our
And
volunteer water monitors.
so that was, I thought, very interesting as another way to assess where's the PFAS coming from.
Yeah.
But anyway, how do you clean it up?
Um, I am not an by any means. I've heard a little bit, probably the same information on the news that you've heard about how much there is a like statistic about how much it costs out there, and the technology that's needed. I don't know any of that information, unfortunately.
Can I give one number?
Yeah,
I don't remember the number exactly when I testified on the PFAS bill, but it's like a pound, I think it's a pound of PFAS costs between 50 and $100. And the cost to clean up that pound of PFAS is something like 18 million.
Yeah, I mean, this is 3M company has had to pay $850 million to the state of Minnesota for cleanup and different things, studies. And I know the cities of Cottage Grove and Hastings, for example, are needing to modify and upgrade their drinking water systems so that, and with at great cost, huge costs. And I don't think the $850 million does it justice for what they need to do, but they are working on that. They're actually in process. Some of those cities downstream of the contamination are doing that work to improve their drinking water. But yeah, it's pretty difficult to deal with that.
thanks,
I
Kathy,
have
for that
one thing.
question.
Okay.
Yeah, Kim, so I'm struggling a little bit with the terminology, water quality versus impaired.
Yep.
But does the DNR also participate or add to determining whether, let's say, a stream or a lake is impaired? So parameters like say the fish are not, you can't consume the fish, or invasive species, whether they're plants, invertebrates, or like the zebra mussel shells. Um, yeah, so your talk is really a lot about water quality and surface water issues. Is that correct?
Correct. And
Okay.
I think what you're getting at is really important. So there are interagency groups that meet and discuss and share information, and there are different roles that the different agencies each play in managing our water across the state. And there's some uh close similarities. You might think of DNR. They regulate the fish, right? And have they certainly have a piece in um, fish consumption. So does the Department of Health. And so there's different things that kind of cross those different agencies, but they all have unique roles to them. And because we're all talking to each other, um, and making sure that we're understanding different perspectives, um, that's really helpful. So DNR in surface water, one aspect that DNR has a tendency to do when we're talking about rivers and streams is they're after particularly game fish. Um, and so they may monitor just the game fish in like the Minnesota River. Whereas we're going to monitor the entire fish community, everything that's there, which is a different purpose. And if they happen to do an entire fish, we will use that information. So we also really work together to not duplicate any information to. So we will use information if DNR is out doing some riparian work and they're going to do a full community assessment. We will utilize that information as well. So it's not done necessarily in isolation. We coordinate with each other and make sure that we're working hand in hand with each other. Does that answer your question, Mike?
Mary Timmons, I think I saw your hand up. Do you have a question?
More of a statement or information, uh, the importance of the Mississippi River and the romance around it is one of the main reasons why we have the International Convention for Rotary coming to Minneapolis and Bloomington in 2028. They expect between 17,000 people from around the world. And they realized when bidding it that coming to Mississippi or coming to Minneapolis wasn't really the magic key that they were going to get the response that we want, because it's like millions of dollars of revenue to help, for the communities. So they are promoting it as come to the headwaters of the Mississippi, enjoy the Mississippi and all that it has to offer. And I'm sure other organizations use the Mississippi too. So the importance of this is really overwhelming and probably the challenge too.
Mm-hmm. Thank
Kim,
you, Mary.
Kim, if I could ask one just kind of a quick question on a lot of what is happening with the monitoring seems to me like it's kind of brute force. I mean, you have to go out to the lake, take some samples, take measurements. Is there any type of technology that is developing today to sort of make the monitoring of surface water easier, or will it always just have to be brute force just by the nature of lakes and streams and having access to various places?
Ah, that is a great question. There are technologies that are coming out to help with that. One would be some of our sensors that we can deploy out in to our waters and they will collect measurements. One of those is our continuous nitrate sensor network, which has started to be installed this past summer. And that still does require us to be out in the field and do that work, but it does give us so many benefits of having real-time data, of having a great more detail of data every 15 minutes. There also are tools to look at remote sensing that might help with giving indicators of where things are healthy or not healthy. In fact, EPA does a harmful algal bloom I don't think it's an advisory. It's a prediction. They predict where harmful algal blooms are going to occur and will give like a percentage by the lakes that they can do this. And they're utilizing remote sensing data to help calculate that. So those are some of the tools that there is other work that's being done on kind of the research side of things. eDNA is also one that I hear a little bit about, which is where you take a water sample and then figure out the DNA that is from what you're looking at. So maybe it's fish, and then comparing that to the actual fish that you see and seeing if they match. And then maybe someday being able to just rely on a water sample to tell you which fish are in that water. So there are things that are coming. There certainly have been technologies that we've taken advantage of and have made ourselves more efficient. I mean, just moving into a technological, we used to take paper and pencil and have to do a whole bunch of data entry for months.
Right.
And now we don't do that
Right.
for most of our programs. So that's, there are things where it'll take some time for us to catch up. And then there also needs to be, um, you know, those need to be approved too. So whatever methodologies have to be approved methodologies
Yeah.
as well.
Good. Thank you, Kim. Kim, are you okay if we had to take one more question for
Well,
Mike and
yeah,
Kathy? Okay.
yeah.
Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you, Kim. We didn't talk at all about Lake Superior. Is that in your purview or is that a whole separate?
All separate.
Oh,
It is not. Some of the beaches are within our purview, but it is not something that we monitor. We have participated in some of the coastal monitoring off of the lake with EPA, but that is extent. We participate for sure in all the water that goes to Lake Superior, right? And we recently did some St. Louis River estuary monitoring this last year as well. Um, and so what we are, just like we're talking about the Mississippi River and what we're sending else, we would need to be conscientious about what we're sending into Lake Superior as well.
Todd, I think I saw your hand up with a question or a comment.
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you to Kim. And, I think we're maybe a couple years out from the citizens of Minnesota being asked again if they are willing to re-up the Clean Water Land and Legacy Amendment, and they'll be asked to vote on that. So this kind of information and, even more, which I know you're working on, and is really important for citizens to begin to see, how this work is resulting in information, resulting in change, improvement. It is I like your analogy of human health and how you really have to keep working at it to see change in your vitals. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. So thanks, Kim. And yeah, Terry, it looks like Terry's got his hand up.
Yeah. Thanks, Todd. Yeah,
Can
Terry.
squeeze some in, Tim?
Yeah, it's up to Kim. She can.
I'm
Yeah.
fine. Yeah,
Okay.
I like the
Okay.
questions and the conversation. So
All right.
thank you.
Thanks. I wanted to build on what Todd just said. I'm a board member of Minnesota Environmental Partnership and just really appreciate this really, really important work. And so just one quick one was how can we as MEP and all the state's environmental groups help support you?
That great question. I think everyone doing their part, right? So supporting this work, helping to get this message out. I think right now we're just trying to say the good work that the Clean Water Fund is making a difference.
Right.
So that is the best and to continue to be involved. As I said earlier, it's going to take everyone. It's going to
Yeah.
take everyone to improve, protect. I mean, I think about the protection in my own eyes, just as somebody who drives around. One time I saw like clear cutting of a riparian area and of trees, and you just about like go, oh, and so it, we can talk about the parameters that are moving through, but it's also those small scale things of what are we doing with the park that happens to be right next to the lake? Are they, mowing, or can we maybe make a difference on whatever scale we can? Maybe it's a homeowner, maybe it's somebody who has an apartment and they can like, I can grow some coneflowers in a pot, or I got my homeowners association to put in a rain garden. There's so many different things that folks can do. There's so many different programs. So making sure that people know the programs that are able to support those good works. Um, most of the Clean Water Fund does go to implementation. So making sure that we're utilizing those to make those changes. So
Right.
the Clean Water Fund has helped illuminate our where we need work, where we need protection.
Yeah.
We could not do this without the Clean Water Fund.
And then sort of a related political question, which you don't have to answer, but I'm just curious in general where you would say Republicans are about supporting this work. Is it mixed? Is it totally supportive? And, and where's that farm community about all of this now?
Yeah, I don't think I can answer that.
Yeah.
So I
I didn't
appreciate the
want to put you in a
question.
bad place, but I just was
Yeah.
curious how that goes and if you're able to say and maybe the last things that I used to go up to Rainy Lake every summer as a kid to Camp Kuchiching and those waters in those days we used to drink probably not a great idea, but now we definitely cannot do that, I don't think, right? And I was just wondering how bad that watershed is. And the other one that I wanted to mention is that I was the chair of the Environment and Sustainability Commission for the city of St. Louis Park. And we went out to the Minnehaha Creek watershed with the watershed district people. And one of the things they said that was very painful for me is that the watershed itself was very clean until it came into St. Louis Park. And from that point on, it was polluted. It was very painful to hear about how we contaminated this with our, various gas stations and runoff from businesses and, hard surfaces. It was really, really painful to hear that. Any thoughts about that? Either of those?
Okay. Rainy River headwaters is one of the if you look into that link, you're going to see like percentages of how much healthy it is, and that will help illuminate. That is probably one of our pretty healthy watersheds. So that's a good thing. So in terms of aquatic life, aquatic recreation.
And
Um,
mercury?
so Mercury is different.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So, but in terms of aquatic life and aquatic recreation,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
yes. So Mercury is slightly different. Yeah, we did not report on Mercury in
Okay.
this report. So,
Got it.
um, and then your other question
Minnehaha.
was about Minnehaha. Um, And maybe I'll lean on kind of my own personal experiences of thinking about what's the vision moving forward. And there are things that previous generations made decisions for, and we have those consequences, good and bad, otherwise, however you want. And how the choice we have is to move forward. So what's the vision that we have for moving forward? So that's my roundabout way of answering that
You know what I'm going to
question.
say? You get an A+ on all levels as a public servant,
Oh, thank you.
doing the dance through the needle.
All right, Mike, you have one last question? No, just got your hand raised. Well, with that, on behalf of the Twin Cities Rotary Eco Club, Kim, thank you so much for making
Yes.
time to be here tonight. Definitely
Yeah,
appreciate it. Todd, thank you for making the connection to Kim. What a great presentation. We will get this recording shared with our other club members, and
yeah.
just really happy that you were able to be here tonight. And thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you. And if anybody has further questions later on, I'd be happy to answer them later too. So.
Sounds good.